Welcome to the Head of the Breach podcast, where we talk everything offensive security. I'm your host, Casey Camilleri, and we're recording live at Black Hat. Today, I have Andrew Grealy with us. Andrew Grealy is head of Armis Labs, where he drives research on AI and emerging cyber risks. With more than 30 years of experience in security, he founded the AI-native cybersecurity firm CTCI, later acquired by Armis. Today, Andrew focuses on uncovering and countering new AI-driven threats. Andrew,
awesome.
Thanks for
Great
coming
to be here, man. Great to be here.
Yeah.
I love Black Hat this time of year, and to have a talk with yourself about cyber's dream come true.
Yeah. And you're positioned really well to see a lot of different things happening in the industry. But what are some of the things that maybe a CISO or security operations, what should they be focused on, and what are they not focused on?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So we started the company, CTCI, a mouthful, cyber threat cognitive intelligence, right? It's understanding the threat determination and what threat actors are doing, right? Being able to get into the operational security of threat actors and knowing what they're doing early, right? A left to boom approach. I spent too much of my life, 14 years of SOC uplifts, which is about going in there, helping organizations, SOCs uplift and get better and fight the bad stuff, right? The incident responses. And what we found is so much of that's right a boom. That what if we can move that back so we didn't have to be every Friday. We didn't have to be there every Christmas. Didn't have to be as soon as I put myself in for holidays down, right? So we created early warning, which is the CVE early warning list. Like these CVEs are being weaponized by threat actors. So if you put those in your environment, if you patch those or mitigate those in the environment, then you can turn that around. You can say, oh, well, I've seen that attack, but we've already protected. And to put in perspective, how we did this with AI and how we looked at the problem. If you look at CISA, Kevin, we love CISA. CISA do a great job of providing a known exploit vulnerability list, right? And I think CISA out there, keep up the good work. But they're right of boom. They're detecting what's already been exploited.
Yeah.
Right. So if we look at our data, about half the data, about 56%, is between 3 months to 12 months earlier than CISA, because we're in the operational security threat actors. And then the other parts were like 3,800 entries that they haven't seen yet, that we know for a fact. And this is evidence-based, right? If you see other systems out there like EPS and all that, the prediction. And as a data scientist, I can understand prediction, but you can't predict something that like if people can predict the stock market tomorrow, everyone would do well, right?
We wouldn't be.
We would, yeah, right. So if you look at that, and then if you look at what people have done today, and when you said, what should we do? Well, you should not patch based on CVS scores. And that's been a proxy for risk. And even in the documents, it says, this is not a risk classifier, but no one had anything better, right? They just had CVSS, right? So people say, 10's more important than a 9. And it's a vendor's view. And if you look at that scoring, the traditional scoring, browsers come down low, but actually that's still the most common way to compromise through clicking a link, right? And an email. So what we say is that, hey, change your view and focus on the vulnerabilities that threat actors are focusing on. Like there's a private VLAN one for Cisco, 6.2. EPSS doesn't add it till it's 7. So, hey, if you've got private VLANs, you need to do something about it. And then we think of the other way, right? So once you've got that, you can then look at what mitigations, protections, all those different parts, what you want to do in an organization. But then we say, take the data the other way. So if I look at the data in CVEs, there's a thing called common weakness enumeration. Yeah. Right? It's the weakness. Apache bypass reversal, right? ESX server, goes through console. So we say, take those around, spin it around in your environment, then match it what your controls are. If you do that, you see, do I have the right controls? Because a lot of people end up focusing on one part of the problem, and there's this big area that CISOs don't see. So we say, hey, the first one, you got ESX server? Have you got a wipe in from your ESX? Because we're seeing 28% of those console attacks. If you had a wipe in front, it would never do a console attack. So it's like, so when we talk to CISOs about that, how we take our data and then match it with their data, and then they get to see those insights, then it's not always about patching. Like patching's a pain in the backside. It takes operational security. So if you can put things in there to eliminate that attack in the first time, you're in a better position. So say, hey, put the WAF for there, because the large percentage of there is protecting that for the ESX. Then spend time and look at those other controls that are affecting the ESX as well, right? And then people get the time to not have to bring everything down in a hurry. And the other thing there is, for us, when we give this data, because we're seeing it in that weaponized position, when they patch in those cycles, they no longer have that threat.
Okay.
Right? And they're focusing on that's important.
And how are you getting the data and seeing what is being weaponized, you know?
Yeah.
Real attackers are doing.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And we have 3 ways of getting that. One way we do is we also see what's getting exploited right now, right? So we have our own deception-based honeypots, right? And those honeypots are not in your normal places like AWS or Akamai or Cloudflare. They're in mom and pop shops. Right, because what does threat actors do? They compromise and they use the credit cards, fake credit cards, or other people's credit cards to do that, and they practice that locally. So if we have something locally for them that's of interest, then we see these new type of attacks, right? And for us, we're not about seeing an old attack that's already known. What we're looking for is a new CWE, new type of attack, or something that we haven't seen, an end day or a 0 day. Right? And we do that well. And with our technology, we can build anything. We can build oil and gas stations. We can build banks. We can build anything based on geography, technology, or industry. So we've done lots of different things. We've even done Formula 1 race cars. We've done Tesla superchargers that got compromised with 0 days. We've done all those different types of technologies. But what leads us to that technology is the next part, which is our intelligence collection. And our intelligence collection, like in Armis, we start to simplify it as the dark web, right? But to us, it's nothing like the dark web, right? Because you're a security guy.
Yep.
So what it is that we'll just say an organization, and I'll use this as an example. An organization is using Jira as ticketing system.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what if we pretend we're a researcher that gets invited into this collection? So now we see all the tickets for everyone getting updated what they're hacking, what they're doing. So if we see all the tickets, then we know what they're prioritizing, what they're weaponizing, and where they are. And when we were a small company, like Michael and I, 2 of us, I found one that this exchange server was getting compromised, 2,000, and I got all the emails, and I sent it to everyone, and we immediately got on spam, right? 2 guys, this can't be true, and then they all got compromised. But now with Armis, with our early warning flash alerts, people know Armis. So when they get something from Armis, like, oh, this is real. So it's actually been really helpful for people to get that information, those flash alerts that come out. And put in perspective, we had RDP, 11 days earlier, we stopped one of the largest big defense contractors from getting compromised. We had Log4Shell 2 months early. We had a lot of these different attacks, Salt Typhoon, most of those are 2021 attacks. And just so for people understand, a lot of the attacks today are before 2022. So if you're not looking at those, you're going to get popped. Right? We see that all the time. They go back to 2021, 2022. They've got them holding there, waiting, right? Ready to use. And then if you look at Salt Typhoon, you look at Volt Typhoon, you look at all those, you see the older vulnerabilities because no one's caring about it. Because what's the Von team doing today? They're overwhelmed looking at the next 500 vulnerabilities this week, right? Yeah. Right? So
which is why they go back and are like, what do you have for me? CVSS, EPS, like I need something, right?
Yeah. So and we've been going for 4.5 years now, so we've got the hang of it. And, we just dropped the other day, like another 700 from a threat actor. So the other part there is in that whole process of collection, we also get in the vulnerabilities in the honeypots, we get these like end days or 0 days, right?
Yeah.
Then we wait for a patch come out. So Patch Tuesday comes out, or Oracle CPU, about 56 other patches come out. We then run them from a binary difference, running through a math tool, SAT solver, SMT solver, look at the exploit paths and see if we've already seen that in the wild. If we have, we add that CVE straight away. So, yep, we've seen this in the wild. If not, we do an automatic exploit generation, which I thought you liked that.
Yeah.
And we put that into our honeypots and different parts. Geographic, we'll be closer to the CMSs in Asia Pacific. We'll be Zeus Trojans in the South America, right? We'll be in the right geography to handle, to get excited, those threat actors get excited by us. And then we'll see when that gets popped. When that gets used. And when that gets used, we know that threat actors using that again, dun, dun, dun. But the other thing there is when you have that intelligence collection in that operational security, you don't have to check with a honeypot.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've already seen it for real.
Yeah.
The other thing there we do is signal intelligence. And we did this when we started, the biggest attacks were were your ransomware, your Bitcoin, right? Went from 18,000 to 56 quick and those sort of things. And they were taking compromise the JBoss servers. So what you see a 2014 JBoss being forked again, and some people finding new ways and variations. And guess what? Because of Java, there's lots of ways you can get around those guardrails, which are just looking for strings, right? And those guardrails. So that gets done again, and people compromise. Now we're seeing the triple threat, which is a crazy direction of what we're seeing.
What's the triple threat for people that are listening?
The triple threat. the triple threat is you get ransomware, right? And less people are paying. So then they bring it up to exfiltration. And exfiltration is bad for two things. One, customer data, but two, also fines. Right, so that becomes even bigger. Like we've seen $1.4 billion fines in that space.
Wow.
And then the third one, which is just as bad as all those, is they go through all the emails, all the information in the organization using AI, because that's an easy way to do it now with tools. Because you say, hey, is there anyone doing something that should not be right or violating different laws? They find people breaking laws.
Yep.
And in an organization, the bigger the organization, the easier it is, right?
The easier it is to find, but more time consuming if you were doing it the old school way.
Doing the hands, no
AI? Yeah.
AI done, right? You can send 1 billion tokens through before you know it. And they then get that extortion, and then they use that to get back into the organization, accounts, all that stuff, to extort money and keep doing it and bring it up more and more and more, because the person's job or livelihood going to jail is because of that person. So now you're seeing that not just once, you can see that they can do that for a large number of people in an organization. So when I say organizations, like, I've been in large organizations, over 200,000 people, we say 1% of the people are doing something mischievous. They may be taking their own toilet paper home with them or stuff like that. But out of that 1%, it's 1% actively doing fraud. So you look at a number like that, you're talking thousands.
Yeah.
Right? So if you get into that organization and do that, and those people hide themselves and layer, and it's easy for AI to look at this person's layering.
Yeah.
Right? Because a normal person would just send an email, this person's sending an email, deleting it, then sending something else and doing that, right? So it's anomalous behavior.
And what other techniques are attackers using in leveraging AI? So, you have data to see, and this is a great example.
Yeah.
What are some other examples of use of AI that's really accelerating the attack?
Yes. So I'll probably give 3 or 4 examples. The first one is LinkedIn. Right, all your social communications. They are so fast reading that. And John just sent this to you. Straight away, you're sending a document with John with the name, right, details about it. Like the amount of spear phishing, we went probably really low spear phishing. Spear phishing got to a point where we're pretty good. Now they look so much real within the post, within the pop, sending a document, a PDF, and people are human.
Yeah, and we used to say, check for things like spelling mistakes, and not using industry terms. It's like, yeah, right. Nowadays with AI, there's no spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
There's, it's using industry terminology. It's even being, it has the context about you and your job role and everything. Yeah,
and to add to that, it's even extrapolated more, because the guy said, that comparison between this Ford versus motor car, right?
Yeah.
Well, with your new engine, I've done that. AI's written the whole document.
Yep.
And as far as I'm concerned, it's got sources in there. They've done Notepad, LM, or any of those different technologies, and it looks like a real document written by John in his tone at the start.
Yeah.
Right? And if you didn't know any better, you'd say, this is John's new document.
Yeah.
So that could cause a number of ways. One, PDF having a vulnerability in there, right, and doing that. The other part, they're giving fake numbers or answers to them to change their direction, to say, maybe our output should be 18,000 instead of 8,000.
Yeah.
Right, or things like that. Right. So there's so many ways to wreck an organization, right, and do that automatically. If I got an email and I just talk to my mate, when's this event we got to go to? And someone sends me an event with the person's name and that's the stuff, and it's about the same date, I'm going to click on it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm human.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm pretty good. I like to say
you have a good spidey sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If guys like us have good spidey senses, and yet we could be duped, then that's powerful.
That's powerful.
Listen, if you made it this far, I'm just going to ask you for one favor. Most of you listening right now haven't subscribed. Go ahead, feed that algorithm, and support us by clicking subscribe. Doing so allows me to bring you great content and allows us to bring more exceptional guests onto the podcast. Go ahead, hit subscribe. I appreciate it. Now, is there some other things that data is showing you of other uses of AI?
Yeah. So the other one is, N8N automation platform, right? The thing about that is,
you're seeing a lot of companies adopting N8N.
Yes and no. My thing there is threat actors, because is someone going to go for a license for them? Right? No. The thing what I'm seeing a lot is, you're in the exposure space. Is they're sending this exploit didn't work, this exploit this didn't work, and they're just switching between all different attacks. Okay, now I see you've got an Nginx server. Oh, you haven't updated that in AWS. I'm going to get right through your Nginx. Or I'm going to do this. So that they've made this big, usable attack path of all different attacks tailored for what technologies there are. And it's taken them virtually no time. And then they share that with access brokers for like $25, $30.
Yeah.
Right? So they say, oh, I want to go after oil and gas. Here's all the technologies they use. Here's all the vulnerabilities. Before it'd be like, person write a bit of code, send it, or run Metasploit or something like that, right? Now it's no. And when the response come back, it goes, oh, okay, you've got this now, you've got this variation, right? So that technology is going gangbusters by threat actors.
I mean, that's what we're doing, right? We have N8N, actually saying, hey, here's the exploit that was released, write it, stage it, put it in platform, right? Like those are things that we're looking to do, and we're doing that because that's what real attackers are doing, and that's where we see the opportunity.
That's right.
That's where real attackers see the opportunity, and that's something that we should be focused on. So
one more that I'm really concerned about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm concerned about lots of things, but really concerned about this.
You never sleep at night, huh?
I enjoy the internet. The thing that I'm worried about as well is, like, in the old days, like if you take Stuxnet, right?
Yeah.
It was really hard to get into the supply chain of code.
Yeah.
Really hard. Like that was years of exercise to get that and to get that goal, right? Action objectives. Whereas what I'm seeing today is two things. One, vibe coding, right? And 54%, Copilot, OpenAI, Claude, all them put vulnerabilities in a code.
Yep.
Right? So you're automatically putting vulnerabilities in code. And
at a faster rate.
At a faster rate than you could ever do. And the second one that I've seen a number of times in Armis, we've been searching in my continuous hunt team, searching for people downloading packages that aren't real packages. So slop squatting. Right? So before, to get into a line of business application, you had to spend, as a threat actor, all the work in the world. All I have to do now is create a package similar to named Python Mumby, MongoDB hyphen, and guess what? The LLMs are all going to do a variation of that, and it's going to come up. You're going to download that because the vibe coding saying, we are going fast with vibe coding, and now it's in your line of business application that no one ever had access to. And what they've done, they just do a wrapper around it. So it's the same library of PY MongoDB, but the wrapper above it is the command and control channel to go back out. Right, so you don't know any different. It's running,
right?
But now your line of business application, which could hardly ever get compromised, and a lot of them don't even have them on external GitHubs or that sort of stuff that are internal, right? Is compromised, right? Your whole supply chain.
Yeah.
And that, to me, scares me, because it used to be really hard to do that. Now, and with more people leaving, less people doing the job, right? Getting your product managers to write the code, right? And all these things, and don't know whether these are root packages. So the amount of tools that you have to pull in there, that we're way behind, just like the internet came out, we're way behind where security needs to become with AI. We're seeing so much of that problem in stop squatting.
And what could someone in their organization do today to combat that?
Yeah, so the first thing there is, don't allow packages that aren't from a repo, right? Did you know about, right?
Yeah.
But how many people, like pip install, it doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? You put that, you add this, right, in the code, and then putting in the library like PyPy.
Yep.
Right? So my thing there is, have chosen libraries and versions that have to match exact. So that's my first thing, right? And I like my thing there is the trains on the train track. I can't stop people say, don't vibe code. Like, I'd be the laughing stock of the
Yeah,
right. So not that. So if we're going to do that, then put all these other checks in place. But the other parts there, like you can probably give some good examples as well, because that's your area.
Yeah.
So the first thing, packages. The second one is there needs to be coding checks.
Yeah.
Checks and balances, not like right at the end of the process, right? It needs to be throughout.
Far left as you can get.
Far left as can. Yeah.
Punk it on the commit. That's awesome, right?
That's right.
Pre-commit hook, or, at least get it, before it pushes if you can, right? Like, how far can you go? That's depending on how mature the organization is. But yeah. And the things that we're doing to mimic real world attackers is we've did exactly that numerous times, where we're literally building a custom tool or a custom package that we will know, supply chain check, and it works, right?
It works, yeah.
And it's like, okay, now if you think about it a little bit differently, the vibe coding that's going on, right? Like, number one, we're introducing vulnerabilities, but we can also vibe code our malicious packages much faster as well, too.
Yeah.
So, that as an attacker, another advantage.
Yeah, and just to put that in perspective, right? So, I started, doing security when Moses played football, right? It's been a few years since I've done it, right? So, but if you look at IDA Pro, when I first taught IDA Pro, no one really taught you. You had to just get it, okay, assembly, work out EIP, then, right? All that stuff. It took a lot of years of being good. I can go and open AI today and say, I'm trying to debug this malware with IDA Pro. What are the steps? And it just gives you need to go this pointer, you need to look for this and type this. Like, there's been no better tutorial to do the opposite of that as well. Create me a new keyboard malware that doesn't use system, just uses in user space, right?
Yeah.
Right? And it does that. And you just have to say, oh, I'm doing this for security reasons, to check this other thing that's running, right? This monitor, blah, 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 blah. But that power of both understanding, reverse engineering, fixing, and then injecting, do like detours in the old days and Microsoft, that's anyone can do, right? When I say anyone, it's before you had the expert, like the IDA Pro expert, reverse engineering. Now it's like a person that can understand a bit about code, like it can do an amazing job.
And you can get a lot of mileage moved really fast carrying NAN automation with even just patch diffing, right?
That's right.
So like someone that's like, patch diffing, like it's not my skill set, can now build an automation that gets them 80% of the way there, because they have they have skills that can actually do that, So it's like, it's allowing, what I'm finding, it's allowing people with certain disciplines to actually be better in other disciplines, specifically in cybersecurity, especially when you put your black hat on and think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, like AI, there's no keeping that in the cupboard, right? So AI is here to stay. And the other thing there that I like to say is, because some people say when I go on this part, it's a bit doom and gloom. But the other thing there, like what it can do to humanity, save cancer, cure diseases, that stuff, amazing. But in cyber, we're in a world of hurt, right? And companies need to work more together to create our own, safe Skynet, or what that is.
Yeah. And all right, so everything that we talked about, what's the biggest, mindset shift that needs to happen within organizations, right? For the ones that are like, well, I was just using CVSS and I do this basically. Like, what would you like them to think differently?
Yeah, so on that shift left, I'd take a couple of different views, right? I'd take the one view of early warning, like we know it to be true, right? You know it to be true, do it, right? Don't do it on a CVS score that someone puts a 10 or a 9 just because they feel out of form, right?
Yeah.
Use it based on what threat actors. Then look at those CWEs, and then look at where your organization is strong and weak in those different areas, and focus on those to fix. And I think with AI...
I think a lot of CISOs know that, but struggle to get there, right?
Well, they didn't have that data in the first part, right? So if you, when I talk to CISOs, they say, would you like to patch based on threat actors? They said, oh, I'd love that every day.
Yeah.
But I got CVS scores. I'll give you this. Like, oh, thank you, right? So it's not having that data now, having that data available. The other part there is to manage all your risk across all the enterprise, right? Like what we find is some areas do vulnerabilities really well. They don't do code. Some do infrastructure, right? All those, put those all into the one place. There's a number of tools that can do that, right? So then you're managing risk across the org. Then you can make that better decision because like I'm a big proponent of vulnerabilities, but misconfiguration is just as bad, right?
Yeah.
An S3 bucket that everyone can access is just as bad.
Yeah.
It's going to cause that data for the customers.
Well, earlier you mentioned the browser, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about some cool research that you're doing, right? Where it's like, just browsers in general need to be patched, specifically on servers and in places that you're not necessarily thinking. And, in a way that's almost back to basics. But it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, and like the other one, like understand your threat landscape, your OT, IT, IoT, medical IT, and IT environment, right? You need to understand that because that's getting itself like you've seen all the Hicks Vision stuff from China.
Yeah.
You've seen lots of huge attacks in that area. It's just getting bigger and bigger, right? And as I said on the browser, like if you've got a server out there, automatically patch your browser. I've found numerous nation states and threat actors compromising, using that as the active point, just waiting for a person to use a browser and do cyber squatting.
What's one of the better LLMs or models to use in cybersecurity? Because you're on the forefront of this stuff, and I know there's different models for different objectives and things that you're trying to do. Could you break down some of the ones that you've seen that have been helpful?
Yeah. So I'll take one step backwards to go forwards, right? So the first step I do is to go in the LLM and ask it questions that you're after.
Okay.
If it doesn't know the answers, it's going to hallucinate and not make anything, right?
Yeah.
So if you say, hey, do you know IDEO Pro and how to look at the hook?
And you're going to ask questions that you know the answers to.
You know the answers questions.
So you can.
And if it knows that and says, hey, I'm going to give you a binary, reverse that binary, right? So if you give it that and then you start in the right situation.
Okay.
So the same goes in code between code creation, right? Code audit for vulnerabilities and auditing the code from a different angle of saying, hey, what's the right way to do this, right? So you can get some code generations today. Say, I will generate Pac-Man. There's Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Or now make Pac-Man run on AWS in a EC2 container on a serverless.
Yeah, right.
right. So understand.
Well, here you go. Well, wow, that doesn't even run.
Free bucket there somewhere for you.
Yeah, right.
Right. So my first thing there is give it the different environments of what you want to do, and then that gives you a better view of what to do. So I find code generation out there, lots of code generators. Like, you've got your Claude, you've got your Rue, Claude's number one for code generation today. In the open source, Gwen, and there's a new free versions of Gwen came out, right? Are fantastic for code generation.
Yeah.
Right? GLM 4.5 is good. It's hard to get other services that you're using today without putting it on your own machine. Not many services have that. Nearly all the services out there have Gwen, have Claude, right? Yeah. And that sort of stuff. Huang come out, which is an updated version of Gwen. That's good too. But there's also, you got to watch with some of the Chinese models. They on purpose recommend, some of them recommend vulnerable libraries. So when you're doing code generation, and it's a 36% with Claude and 28% with OpenAI, still gives the wrong package, right? That some of those packages are not exist, so it can take care of that slop squatting. So that's the next thing, right? When you're doing that code. On code auditing, you have to use very different models and train. The difference between it is if you have like a SQL injection, but it's not a SQL injection because it's a static. Yeah. All the tools today, you get the brand new tool, and it'll say that line's completely bad. It'll say that line's terrible. It's like, no, it's not vulnerable. Yeah. So there's a big difference between written badly, it's using pluses, concatenation, and it's using static, but it's not vulnerable. So when you audit code, the later models actually don't audit well because they just want to rewrite that code to be, here's the sequence. Like, no, it's not vulnerable, right? So different models I see have different answers that way. But the really good thing about...
The context window matters too, right?
Yeah, the context. So the really good thing today on training your own models, in the old days of OpenAI, we'd need 10 to 20 million entries, right? Yeah. So when DeepSeek came out, they usually think of GRPO, and now there's Gwen's got GSPO, it's even better. And what it means is you can get 5,000 to 7,000 lines of samples to say, hey, this is wrong, this is better. and it will move that to the level of OpenAI, 4.1, right, for getting those right. And that makes it that anyone, you can go, just tip for you, you can go like to Google Notebook and run GPUs for 12 hours free. So you can train for free your new model and then just load it wherever you want to load that,
Yeah, everyone's trying to give it away.
Yeah.
Everyone trying to capture the market, right?
Yeah, but the great thing about that is anyone at home can go and build the model, give some examples, and run that. Like in the old days, for me, data science, it was like hardcore, right?
Yeah.
And this is like, no, you give it the reward function for code to say, hey, this is 100 if it's right, 50 if it's partly right, and 0 if it's wrong. Yeah. That's all you do. And give 5,000 entries, say, I want you to do better Cobalt, and I'll go and make that better Cobalt, right? But what I suggest is you get a model that already knows Cobalt in the first part, because then you're training in a completely new language, right? Yeah. So understand what it has first, and then extend it and make it the best in the world.
That's great. Andrew, I could continue this conversation forever, but unfortunately, that's all we have. Yeah. If someone wants to, follow the work that you do, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, Armis, I'm always posting on LinkedIn and with Armis and that stuff. Like I posted actually 3 days ago, said, this is a great week, all these new models. And I haven't had a chance to update to say OpenAI got released, right? So many good models last few weeks.
It's just moving so fast.
Amazing.
So fast, right? And things are changing every day, but that's cybersecurity for you too.
Yeah, mate. We live in an amazing time,
Yeah. Well, Andrew, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. If you've made it this far, do me a favor and check out what we do at Sprocket Security. If you're ever in need of a penetration test and you want that hybrid scalable approach, the always testing, always on, not this fake click a button, do a pen test 2 weeks and then do that 5 times a year. No, I mean always on, always testing, latest bleeding edge threat that comes out there, latest exploit, phishing, all the way to, defense evading, covert operations, whatever type of pen test you need. We'll do it as frequently as possible, and we'll also provide a platform for us to interact together. I've devoted the last 5 years of my life to building penetration testing and innovating upon it and changing it so you can actually do security testing, proactive security testing in a much better way. Give it a shot. Check us out, www.sprocketsecurity.com.